Are you okay over there, Melanie?
No.
Oh,
I got my
okay.
hair cut, so I have bangs now, and they like fall over my face like this. And so,
You want to give me like another 2 seconds of silence so I know where to start the episode? Okay, and hello everyone, and welcome back to The Adventures in Ballarat. Thank you for listening. Really, thank you for listening. Honestly, Melanie and I are once again amazed that people actually listen to the two of us scream, because we've made it this far now, and we are now entering into season 2. Guys, I want to insert a little clapping track here. But yes, so tonight we start on episode 201, The Heart of the Matter. And as usual, I'm Annalisa, and I'm joined by my co-host.
hi, I'm Melanie.
And, guys, thanks to the beauties of the internet, we are joined by our Australian correspondent, the beautiful, the lovely, the effervescent, the insert Leslie Knope compliments here.
Oh, I introduce myself?
Yes, you can introduce yourself.
Hello. My name's Shannon. I am, yes, from Australia. That's the only interesting thing about me in context of this podcast. That's all you need to know.
Oh, that's the only interesting thing about you? For everyone who doesn't know, Shannon is the sole reason why Melanie and I are here, okay? I will keep this long story short and say that on one cool April evening in a New York hotel room, Shannon somehow clockwork oranged me into watching the show.
Clockwork Orange is a strong statement. I may have threatened you with the choice of the entirety of Stargate SG-1 or this really great Australian show.
She knew what my weakness was. She knew my weakness was a penchant for Australian drama, so she knew I was going to pick it. And here we are, all these months later. Can you believe it was only April?
Full disclosure, though, we've come full circle because we are friends. Because I started on a podcast that you were running 4 years ago.
I know, guys. If anyone,
at all, if not for a completely separate podcast, so we have come entirely full circle, right here, right now, today.
And this is where our relationship dies. No, I'm joking.
They no longer need me after today.
He's useless to me. After I record this, I will no longer need her in my life. We are done. That's
wrong, because every time they have like a cricket-related question, guess who gets up?
No, don't even go that far, because anytime it's just an Australian-related question. If anyone listening wants to know, my family is also obsessed with Shannon to the point where it's a little bit creepy. So, Shannon just also gets random questions throughout the days.
I do get sent random Snapchats of kangaroos.
Yes, that's just the thing that Shannon started though. But also, you can't help it. You can't help it. You can't help it, guys. You can't help it. Oh, okay. Well, let's start this episode, guys. 201, Heart of the Matter. We have directed by Declan Eames, who I have a bone to pick later on. I will discuss the editing of this episode with the ghost of Declan because he's not here later. And this episode was written by good old Stu Page, who has, I've done the math, and I think he's written, 39% of the whole show? Like, I literally broke down the number of episodes he's written for this show, including season 5.
Season 5, yeah.
Yeah, he has literally written almost half the show.
He is the backbone of this show.
Mm-hmm.
I think I described it the other day. It's like a Stu Page episode is like a warm Ballarat hug.
It is.
You know what you're going to get, but you love it.
You love it, and you yearn for it on cold nights.
Stu Page episode starts, that you're in for a good hour of television.
Yes. Okay. Now, Melanie, would you care to share with us whatever hot mess the ABC has in the form of a synopsis of this episode?
Yes, I can. It starts off with Dr. Blake returns from China and finds himself thrown straight into a murder investigation when the newly elected mayor of Ballarat is found dead at the bottom of the town hall steps. And that's all one run-on sentence. I had to like breathe in between that though to get all that out.
Oh, the ABC. Oh, they get me.
I mean, the synopsis actually isn't bad. It just needs punctuation.
It just follows no proper grammatical rules of writing.
If you are looking for someone with a communications degree to add punctuation to your episode synopsis for Dr. Blake Mysteries, I am available.
Yes, guys. If anyone knows anyone who can contact someone from the ABC, we have Shannon out here looking for a job. Also, dear ABC, if you're looking for anyone in the next year or so that will be studying communications in Australia, I will be there. If you want to hire me too, so I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring. I too can place grammatical punctuation in synopsis.
And I have nothing to contribute, but if you want to adopt me, I'll be happy to come over too.
But no, for real, just hire Shannon. She's far more qualified than I am. Oh, I have two synopsises for this episode, guys, that I threw together in a haste. One of them I threw together because I was like, oh, this is right up the ABC's alley. All I said was politics. ... Get deadly. That's all I did. I was like, that's the tagline for the episode. I also have another synopsis that's it's a synopsis in music form for everyone. It's queued up and ready to go. So everyone, let's just all take a moment to enjoy what the true synopsis of this episode is. All right, well, that's the true synopsis of this episode because
Also titled Ding Dong Joy is Dead? Or is that too far?
No, I love it, actually.
I actually like Joy in this episode. But
No, I like Joy in this episode. We all like Joy in this episode.
I actually love Joy. That's the real thing to take from this podcast today is we all love Joy, even though we wish we didn't.
Yes.
You're not wrong, actually. That's completely true.
That's a nice segue, Shannon. Now, normally I make Melanie choose where we start our episodes. But you're the guest. You're the resident Australian. You're our correspondent. You're the reason we are here. So I'm gonna let you decide. Where should we jump in with this episode? Because there's a lot.
I don't think we can move past the first Lucien and Jean scene of the episode, i.e. the moment when Jean goes to pick him up from the bus. I think it would be remiss of us to try and move beyond that moment without first addressing how adorable Jean Beasley has become over the season break. Not to say that she wasn't incredibly adorable in season 1, because obviously. As I was saying to Melanie earlier, I don't think she's ever been so excited to see Lucien in her life as she is at the moment when she goes to pick him up. Because normally there's an added thing of like, oh gosh, what murder mystery have you brought home with you? What disaster are we currently going through? Whereas at least now she seems actually happy to see him.
I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. And now I think we should just take a listen in on that beautiful moment. Yes.
Look who's here. Lovely to see you.
Lucy. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. That damn car of your father's.
Gee. No, it's great to see you. Oh, of course you know Joy.
Mrs. McDonald. Jean, how are you?
Yeah, we just happen to be on the same bus. Joy's covering the council election.
You're wanted at the town hall police business.
Really? Already?
I've brought your medical bag along.
What would I do without you? Excuse me. Lovely surprise seeing you, Joy.
You too, Lucien.
Reunited, and it feels so good. That's all I'm gonna say.
Even though it was crashed by Joy
So quickly.
so quickly.
So
Yes.
quickly. But also, the Jean's face. I mean, girl ain't hiding nothing.
Oh,
Just
she's
hiding.
forgotten how to hide her feelings in the
Mhm.
however long Lucian has been away. Do we know how long Lucian's been away?
No, we don't bring up the timeline. We don't bring up the timeline in the
We bring it
podcast.
up every episode. I think
I
he's
can't
been gone
you
for several
when this
months.
episode takes place.
Oh, yes. Shannon, when did
I
you
have figured this out. So the final scenes of the episode take place on Wednesday, the 16th of December, 1959. So we're in that week. Just for context.
Can I
You
ask
happy?
how you found that out?
You happy, Melanie? You happy?
Hold
Yeah.
on, wait. What was the date again?
16th of December. It's a Wednesday. 1959. Do you want to know how I figured that out?
Yes, please.
I listened back to this scene where Lucian is in the guy who did the murder. I can't remember his name.
The killer.
Playing in the background, and I figured out what game of cricket the commentary was from. It's from the Australia-India tour of 1959-1960. It's the first test. No, is it the first test? It is the first test. Yep. Australia won, by the way, in case anyone was interested.
Oh, good. Good to know. Good to know.
The first test
Good to know that.
happened Wednesday, 16th of December, 1959.
Look,
So it's like 10 days out from Christmas when these episodes take place.
I'm very excited right
no.
now because I can add another date to my timeline that I have in my journal.
Which like what? Between the ending and the beginning of the episode is like what, 3 days?
No. Well,
Probably.
110 was November 3rd, 1959.
No, I meant from the beginning of this episode.
Oh.
From the beginning of this episode is probably about like 3 days between then and the ending of the episode. So from beginning to end, it's probably like 3 days. At most 3 days. I don't think it's 2 days. I think it's more
No,
than 2
it
days.
doesn't feel like an episode.
Yeah, it feels like at least 3 days.
Yeah.
Especially because he comes back at night, so I'm counting that as 1 day.
Yes.
And then the following day,
And
maybe
then-
4 days.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 or 5 days. Because it's like 1 day and then yeah, it has to be at least 5 days. Okay. You see, Melanie? We got
So we're approximately like the 10th of December to the December.
Which also explains the ending on We're just
Mhm.
Although it's not that cold for you guys in December, is it?
No, it is quite warm.
Exactly. I was like, wait a second. I just realized something. It's not cold for you guys. They would not be wearing their coats.
Look. Full disclosure, I am from New South Wales. I'm from Sydney. I'm not from Victoria, and I've never been to Ballarat. But it can be coolish in December.
Okay.
Like, I don't mean it's cold. I just mean you might want a light coat in the evening. Lucian doesn't seem to dress based on the weather at any time anyway.
No.
So I don't think he's a great test of what the weather conditions are.
Usually
And
Jean is pretty good at dressing for whatever
the show in general is very loose with its times, dates, and its wardrobe. It runs
Well,
in
we
very-
know it's loose on its times and dates because we've got hours of footage where Melanie's trying to figure out what the times and dates of these episodes are.
I
But
lead
also-
a sad life. I lead a sad life, okay?
I honestly think this show is more along the lines of we know Craig has to be outside for so long, so we're just gonna we clearly film in the winter, so we're gonna dress him appropriately is what it is. That's really what it is.
cold in winter, and
Yeah.
we want this to come back for another season.
Yeah, we don't need our lead actor getting sick halfway through production, so he's going to be dressed appropriately. We don't care if this episode's supposed to take place in the winter. It's
He's a
cold.
gentleman. You know, a three-piece suit is just
Exactly.
what you have worn, no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't worry too much about the costuming in the show. That's not better.
The only time we worry about the costuming is when there are pieces of the costume missing.
Or, spoiler alert, it looks like their season 5 ending Christmas sets wardrobe is actually quite appropriate.
Yes.
For people who've seen the image
Yes.
of the final episode.
Which I'm very happy about.
Like they're Christmas appropriate.
But I feel like at that point, though, they were this far along into the show, but they're like, it's Christmas. No one here is going to dress. You know what I mean? This is how we would dress if it were Christmas. Yeah. This isn't Christmas.
Which, because it's going to air quite close to Christmas now. It's going to air, late October, maybe even early November. And then the telemovie will be...
Yeah.
So we're into Christmas. But it was originally supposed to air in...
the summer. Or from our summer, our summer, yeah, our summer.
Either way, it was supposed to end mid-year, so they were happy to do a Christmas set episode mid-year, and it's just by chance ended up being in November now, which is.
It was gonna be Christmas in July, okay? Originally, it was gonna be
like the Franny telemovie, and it actually is Christmas in July.
It is, right? I was thinking about that.
I would love a Christmas set telemovie. They could go to the mountains. Oh my god, their honeymoon could be in the mountains. Why aren't we writing on this show?
Why? Okay, Shannon, why are we not?
I don't know. Anyway.
Ooh, guys, fun headcanon I want to share with you guys. So, because I was just imagining this, but imagine, because we have them being reunited, obviously, and clearly, Jean is like, oh, great, you brought this woman back, obviously. It's clearly the look on her face. But what I really love, and I love the look on Joy's face when she sees him and Jean get reunited. But it's also the same look that she keeps like throughout the whole episode when she sees them together, or she's with Jean. It's this weird, like, I think it's clearly the reporter in her that's like just intrigued on what that story is, you know? But I also feel like I would love to imagine that the entire ride, or the entire time they're on the bus, Jean is just babbling on and on about how much about Jean this and Jean that, and how much he missed Jean. And I love the idea that Joy's sitting on that bus like, we've been on this bus for 4 hours, and the only thing he's talked about is his fucking housekeeper. Like, he has not even mentioned anything about his trip to China. What is happening? And then I kind of love the idea that happens. And she sees how happy Jean is to see him, and she just kind of like puts 2 and 2 together, and she's like, oh, okay, there's something's going on here. Mm-hmm. So I had that fun little headcanon, because I also would not put it past them to have spent all that time on the bus just going on and on about Jean.
Oh, definitely. I wonder how long. So are we assuming that bus ride is what, Melbourne to Ballarat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yep, that's enough time for him to really get into detail about how much he's missed Jean.
Yep. Right. And then I would love that, like, he wouldn't even
the texture of her hair or something on that ride.
Yeah.
So he's like, I understand.
Yeah. He's just on and on about like, no, but like, you know, the way that she flutters about the house and things like that, and Joy's like, we get it.
I folds my jumpers. No one doesn't like Jean.
Exactly. He's like, you know what I really missed? I missed her cooking, and I missed having a clean home to come home to. But I missed how she would fold my shirts, like something like that.
I missed how she would solve my murders for me.
Yeah, she would solve my murders. You know, I've had this button that's been off of my one shirt, and no one's been able to mend it. I tried to mend it myself. You see this? I ended up with this scar, and I really miss having this person around. And the whole time, Joy is just like, "Good Lord, man, really? You don't understand what's happening? Clearly."
That button.
Hold on, real quick. I have to go on a tangent for like 2 seconds. I'm sorry. You brought up Jean solving the murders most of the time. And so I had a friend over tonight watching the episodes with me, and we watched 107, where Jean's cutting the meat on the table.
Don't go there in that unhygienic scene that I had a fucking moment over.
And my friend Gina looks at me and she goes, does he always figure out the case whenever Jean's cutting meat or it has something to do with meat all the time, and I was like, just wait, just wait.
It's just they always happen to be in the kitchen when he has his moments of clarity. Okay,
I have a lot of roasts. Like, one of my favorite things about this show, this is such a weird thing, is that Jean is evidently quite a good cook, but at the same time has the best white person bland tasting food. It is so true to 1950s, 1960s Australia. Every time they have dinner and it's like peas and roast, maybe with gravy. And I'm like, it's my childhood on a plate.
So true, though.
What my grandmother would have made every single time we went to the place for dinner. And it's such a small detail, but it rings so true, and I love it. And the one night of the week that they have fish and chips, and that's it. Other than that.
Also, I have one quick question, real quick. Does Australian roast cook faster than American roast?
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh wait. I have to explain that. So in the episode, right, where Jean has the pseudo proposal from what's his name, right, in the play. So in that episode, she makes it a point that when she's talking to Lucien, she says something, and then she asks him, "Do you want a roast for dinner? I'm making a roast for dinner." And he goes, "Yes." And she goes, "Okay, I'll pop it in the oven when I get back from rehearsal." And so Melanie and I went, wait. Her rehearsals are clearly in the evening. How quickly is she planning on making this roast if she's not popping it until after she gets back home? And so I made a joke of saying, is there like either they have an oven that goes to an unbearably high temperature, or there's a weird conversion there whenever we go to Australia and you make a roast.
I would not put it past the Blake household to have a really weird oven.
Same.
Oh.
And you know what? I have proof of that because in one of the most recent episodes, spoiler alert, of season 5, when she's making the hot cocoa, that oven is set to way too high a temperature. Sorry, that stove was burning whatever she poured into that pot.
I think that was purely an aesthetic thing. Like, they tried to turn it on and they were like, it doesn't look very good.
Yeah, they were like, clearly yeah, that was a that was clearly there for the camera. That was clearly
I'm trying to think how long it takes to cook roast now.
Usually it takes like about 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, yep.
What? No, it doesn't take 4 to... No, so if we cook to Sunday...
Yes, it does!
Like,
yes, it does!
An hour and a half.
What?
An hour to 2 hours at most.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, it also depends on how big the roast is. Clearly, we've seen the cuts of meat that Jean buys from the butcher. Those are like enough to feed a family of 6.
She's feeding?
Sorry, that continues my theory that all the
3 for most of this show, or 4.
Mhm. No, it's
I don't know.
3 because they're not usually all home for dinner.
No.
Usually one of them is missing.
Exactly. Missing.
Missing. No, all I'm saying is the roast that she's buying are enough to feed my family of 6.
Yeah.
So,
And there's no way that's getting cooked in an hour and a half. I'm sorry.
I'm sure there's someone out there who could like say this is completely false, but I would say it normally takes about 2 hours for us to prepare a roast if we were cooking one. So yeah, maybe we do just cook roasts quicker in Australia.
I mean,
Maybe.
maybe it's just a smaller cut of meat or a leaner cut of meat. It could just be a totally different cut of meat.
Maybe we just have better ovens. We have better healthcare and a better education system.
Okay.
All
We're
right.
not gonna go any further. And with that, we move on, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna move on because Shannon's out here throwing punches, and none of us are out here. No, okay, no, because I'm not admitting that you live in a superior country.
I
I mean,
would.
she does. So
Purely out of the fact that I'm not even.
Anyway, I'm just trying to think if there's anything from that first scene that really stood out to me. We've not moved beyond that first scene, really.
I mean, besides the fact that Jean is unusually excited to see him again.
Very excited. You know what I really noticed was when Lucian walks away from Joy, but then he turns around again. He turns at the same time as him, even though they're not in each other's line of sight. They both turn at the same time, and I love that detail. Annalise's cat just walked across.
I'm still here. Don't worry. He just wants attention.
I love that detail of, I don't know if it's, Lucian obviously is very attuned to the fact that Joy is there, and he's not entirely sure how to deal with being back in Ballarat, having Jean there, the way they left things, because they leave things in season 1 on quite bad terms between them.
They're weird terms because
which they never really address.
Yeah, well, because technically they leave things on bad terms with one another in person, but then with that letter,
but Lucian doesn't necessarily know Jean's reaction to the letter.
Exactly.
We see Jean's reaction, and there's obviously a level of implication that they've been in contact since he left, because she knows up that night, but not enough that A, he knows Danny is gone, and B, he knows Nell is dead. So Jean has not told him very many things about what's happened, so it's safe to assume that their level of communication has been as simple as a note saying, I'll be home at this time, and Jean's like, great, I'll pick you up.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume, let's assume we don't have concrete dates and places because of this is the show in a nutshell. But let's assume that he's been gone for 4 months, 5 months. It couldn't have been more than 6 months, because I honestly don't think that house would have been able to function purely financially without him after so many months.
That's a long time.
Like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I would say at the most 4 months.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was probably like an occasional letter back and forth, but then also we also have to imagine 3-4 months. That's not even a lot of time to send that much.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? To send that many letters back and forth purely out of the like time it would take for one letter to get from one place to the other. So maybe like 3 letters were exchanged the entire time. So I'm assuming that like over those few letters, they were both able to garner that they had reached some mediocre place of like where they stood, you know,
really addressing anything that came up in that episode.
Yeah, like I feel like
that they're not at the home. Basically, he's aware that Jean has come home and is not run off.
Yeah, like I assume one letter would have been. I assume he would have sent. It would have been the original letter he left when he left the house. Then I assume there would have been another letter once he arrived in China, saying I've arrived safely and I still am the person. And more of like, I'm staying in this place. If anything happens, contact me here. And then probably about like a month after that, or like a few weeks after that, a letter from Jean, probably like, oh, hey, here's an update on the house. Your house is still here. Like, I still work for you. I'm still, yeah. And then Morgan like,
no, like he doesn't know that, no. He doesn't know that Matty has started studying.
I feel like it was like a postcard, if anything.
Yeah, so there's clearly been a lack of communication about what is happening in Ballarat while he's been away.
But is that a shocker, really, though? They don't really talk about it.
Not at all.
No.
Speaking in the context then of their reactions to seeing each other, straight off the back of what was them probably most painful argument at the end of 110 when she walked out.
It's their most visceral like conversation in like the length of the show, because they've yet to have a like really emotionally impactful conversation and or argument.
Sunday, I'm just saying.
No man, next Sunday in the post
Sunday.
Okay, fine. Next Sunday.
Next Sunday when we're dealing with the events of what happened this Sunday.
No, I work next Sunday.
No.
I won't know if I work next Sunday until I go into work Monday, so
I will be there, and I will be crying probably and having a small breakdown, as I normally do on a Sunday night.
I don't work this Sunday, so I will be okay. Look, I say I'll be awake, guys. Let's be real. I'm not going to be awake. I'm going to be awake at like 10 a.m. It's Sunday, my only day off. I haven't had a day off in 2 weeks.
I'll be
Full-
awake. It's fine.
Telling me that they're going to be awake when the episode airs, and not once have they been awake because I have been live blogging it to them in the Facebook group chat by myself.
Wait a second. Hold up. No. There's no point in me getting up when it's actually on because I can't watch it. So I get up after it's aired and find a link and then watch it.
Exactly. In our case, you know, we have until about 7:30, 8 a.m. You know, maybe.
So I get up
I'll
at like 7.
At that point, I'm crying and trying to fall asleep. It's great.
You know what, guys? I think we've segued perfectly, or we have created the perfect segue to sorry, get into the next scene. And I feel like we're going chronologically this week, but I feel like we kind of have to for this episode. But let's all take a listen in on this scene. I feel like I don't have to really build this scene up, because once you guys listen in on this, you'll have things to say.
How was he? I've already told you, Matty. He seemed perfectly fine. But did he say anything about his daughter? Or China? Well,
Morning. I do apologise for missing breakfast. Ah, Matty. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good, yes.
We were expecting you last night, and we waited up for you. Matty, you let the doctor get his breath.
Let me tell you both something. I am very, very glad to be home. Now, patience, you say.
The family is reunited.
And it feels so good.
It does. It feels
For all of us.
it feels so good. Guys,
He reacts to Maddie. I
know. He like throws his bag down on. He like just throws his bag aside and like all but like falls to his knees like he's got a toddler running towards him. It's
best father.
the best father ever.
It's a very beautiful.
It's just it's a lot.
A tiny thing. I love it anytime Lucian comes in the back door through the kitchen, as if that's his entrance. And I don't understand the geography of this house well enough.
I don't either. Wait.
Why he would be coming through there instead of the front door?
Wait,
But
thank you for saying that, because also in the geography that we do know of this show and of that house, that would make no fucking goddamn sense. He would have had to walk through the back garden to come in back there.
But it's very, there's a real family sense to it, because there is sort of that idea that your front door is where official guests come through. But coming in through the back door is a very family, sort of familial, this is my home way to do it. Like, it's not a special occasion, it's just any other day, and I'm coming home to my two favorite girls.
You know what it feels like? Is it feels so much, now that you say about entrance specifically. Hold on, I got like Edward Scissorhands over here walking on the fucking hardwood floor. Can you go sit in your bed, please? Go sit in your bed and be quiet. Hold on. Go sit in your bed. Go get in your bed. Get in your bed. Get in your bed. Good boy.
You know, I actually didn't hear the dog until she said something about it.
I know you didn't hear him, but I'll hear him. No, the mic on my mic picks up whenever he walks on the floor. That's why I've already caught it enough times whenever I listen back. So I'm just like fucking Edward Scissorhands over here. Can't control himself. What was I gonna say? Oh, so now that because you mentioned specifically how homely it feels whenever he does walk into the back door, it's making me realize, you know what? It feels a lot like those like old original 50s sitcoms. The Andy Griffith, I Love Lucy era of like original like American television, you know what I mean? Of like, that's what that like opening episode would, or the opening of the episode would be like, the, you know what I mean, father figure coming into the back door like, I'm home, honey, or you know what I mean, like, I'm home, kids, and things like that. And it's so unusual, and if you look at that in like the grand scheme of things on this show, of like specifically that moment, but then in context it feels so right.
It really does. It's a beautiful scene. It always intrigues me when Jean, and I know this is only the first episode of season 2, so they are still very formal in some ways, but it always intrigues me when she chooses to refer to him as the doctor.
Oh, I know.
Especially when she's talking to Matty. And how she sort of uses that way of addressing him to create a formality in their relationship, even still within the context of this family they've created. It's still the sense of There's
It's that little, yeah.
Maddie and me, but we're not a family yet, even though we feel like one.
It's that little wall that's put up every now and then. It's just only it's just occasionally that it happens. And then like I love the fact that she's actively she's actively choosing to say the doctor versus Lucien.
Yeah.
Because in so many other contexts, in so many other instances, it just comes out Lucien. You know what I mean? Like when they're talking, it's just like, yeah, well, Lucien said this, and in this one instance, you're like, no, she's actively choosing to say the doctor.
And this is the first episode where you get this sense that she is aware of herself in relation to him, and therefore is choosing how she reacts to him, to people who mention him, which really comes up in that scene with her and Joy later on, obviously. But there's obviously been a shift in the way that she sees and feels about Lucien while he was away, and she's still working through that. But she's so hyper aware of it that it impacts the way that she acts with everyone in this episode.
Ooh, what we forgot to mention, guys, is that another great thing that this episode gives us is we get to meet Charlie in this episode. We no longer have, Danny. Which, is anyone really mad about that? I mean,
crickets.
cricket. I mean, and also, can we all take a minute to appreciate the most Lucien nature in which Charlie and Lucien meet?
You know what? I actually
to the head. Yep.
I actually didn't notice that until this time I watched it.
It just
looked that out there real quick.
It explains so much about why the relationship is the way that it is when it first began. That man makes no good first impressions.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows how to make a good first impression, if we think about this in all honesty. Name one person on this show that he meets and actually has a good like first moment with that doesn't have at least some dramatic flair to it or some Lucien-ness happening where you're just kind of like
the scene where he meets Frank, but that has dramatic flair, but that comes from Frank. Like Frank makes that.
Oh yeah.
himself. But apart from that, Lucien does a pretty good job of fucking things up himself. Am I allowed to swear openly on this podcast?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I have rated us explicit because I can't contain myself, so.
Great.
Yeah, no, Lucien does a nice job of fucking things up on his own.
Oh gosh, yeah.
From literally the first second he meets someone.
Yeah. I love that line. And you are conducting an interview. He just gives no room whatsoever.
Oh, I love it so much.
The moment Charlie is done with Lucien, and at no point in the next 4 seasons has he ever.
No, nothing. And if anything, it's just gotten worse to the point where he's just like, at this point, my life should not still be this difficult working with you, and yet it still is.
I live with you, and this is still as difficult as it was that first day.
I also love the idea that they literally established within the first 30 seconds that we meet Charlie that he just wants to get his job done. That is all. And here we have this man tripping him on some stairs.
Which is an interesting thing. One thing I've noticed and picked up on about Lucien over all of the seasons is his insistence on using the people around him as test subjects to prove in the form of physically attacking them or tripping them or throwing punches at them.
Or trying to just them.
How human nature works. And it's such a terrible way to go about life, but works so incredibly well for him.
I mean,
and you can't but forgive him.
He's gotten this far, but I mean, it's not like it's been an easy road for him. You think by now he would have gone, let's maybe not use people as, human subjects unless we ask first.
But if you ask first, you're not going to get their true reaction.
No, you're not. But it's also one of those, we know how, you know what it is this goes back to what I said the other day when I was talking to Melanie, because I said, for someone, he's such a very, what's the word I'm looking at? He's a tactile person, obviously, but he's so visual in the way that he has to explain things. Like, he can never really explain things verbally. But it makes me laugh because he worked in intelligence. The department in which you need to be able to explain things in the least amount of words possible, and yet he has to describe visually everything he does. So I just have it in my head that he would try to give reports like by showing everyone, and they were like, no, go type it for us, please. We need a memo.
They
Not
never
for
said
graph.
he was a good
Yeah.
spy. We just know he was a spy.
No, yeah, we know he was a spy, but
It's true.
Great one.
I mean, he must have been of some use because they keep trying to get him back. So I assume he was of some use to the Australian government.
Vaguely useful. Not the Australian government.
Sorry, the British government.
Yeah,
Whatever.
he's a foreign spy. You're gonna
It's
kick him.
whatever. Don't even. Whatever. Don't. That's a point of contention. The point of contention with so many of us. Ugh. Whatever. All right. Well, you know. You know what, guys? Let's going off of that, whatever that was. I'm gonna segue us into a little bit of emotions that we get. So here we go.
I expect Nell will be wanting her prescription renewed. Is she here?
Lucien, I didn't want to have to tell you last night. Nell Clasby's passed away. A couple of weeks ago. It was pneumonia. I'm so very sorry, Lucien.
Patience. Who's up first?
Mrs. Sinclair.
Mrs. Sinclair. Thank you, Jane. Mrs. Sinclair, how are we today?
Would you like?
Because nothing in this man's life can ever go completely 100% well all the time. Oh. I'm just everybody. Oh no, what happened?
My favorite part in that entire scene, though, actually isn't anything to do with Lucien and Jean, which is a big shock for those of you who know me. It's instead the moment when Jean is walking back down the hallway and Maddie comes out and they grab each other's hand as Jean walks by. And it's such a beautiful moment. Possibly not my favorite moment from that episode, but it's up there.
I agree with you wholeheartedly because I was actually going to bring that up right now because I love that little bit. It's such a quick little exchange between them as they walk back. But my other favorite part is the like second that like Jean has when she's running after him, that she kind of like braces herself when she like puts her hand on her stomach, like she's trying to emotionally prepare herself for what she knows the news that she has to deliver. Because she knows how much Nell meant to him.
Yeah. And this is the first episode where you can clearly see that Jean responds to his emotions in a very visceral way. The way that he is affecting her, not in a you're annoying me so I'm pissed off at you, but in a you're hurting so I'm hurting for you. Like she's crying as she walks away from him, and that's why she grabs Maddie's hand. And part of that is probably because she also knew Nell quite well and is feeling that emotion again. But a lot of it seems to be purely based on Lucien's reaction, and she's hurting for him. And it's the first time we've seen that in a not in a pitying way. Or pity is probably not the best word. I don't think she had pity.
In an empathetic way, because she's just feeling empathy in the first season.
Yeah, she reacts to him in season 1. She reacts to finding out about Malin and his daughter. She reacts to those things in a very real way. But this is purely just, I'm hurting because you're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And very beautiful.
And especially because I'm hurting because you're hurting, but also, you know, I've also just thrown this out at you, and this is something that you're finding out. It's also, I feel like she also feels that guilt of like, yet another big piece of news that's been left from him. You know what I mean? Like, imagine this is a man that's just traveled, that's just come back from traveling halfway across the world because, you know what I mean? He was essentially not being lied to, but this piece of information was being kept from him for so many years. And I'm doing something, I mean, not necessarily similar, but close enough that I feel like there was some guilt there.
Yeah. And she knows that he's been on this journey to piece back together his family. and now she has to tell him that he's lost a small part of that.
Yes, exactly.
And
Like-
she doesn't know what happened in China yet. She doesn't know if he was successful in finding his daughter. Like, that's a lot of weight to carry.
It is. You know, yeah, and I agree with you because again, like, here's a man who thinks that he might have just gotten most of his family back together.
Yeah.
Only to realize that once again, no, another piece of his family's been yanked away from him. And once again, against his will and while he wasn't there.
And a piece of his family that obviously we don't learn about until in later episodes, but
Yes.
someone who's closely related to his mother as well.
Yes.
So
Who played a very significant role in his life.
whether it's intended or not, that link to his mother is also quite alive in Nell's passing, because she does play a rather motherly role in the first season, and she's obviously a living link, well, no longer living, sorry Nell, to his mother that he's now lost. So it's like losing those links to her all over again.
Yeah, and I love how well that's implied in the first season, even though we don't necessarily get the payoff until, you know, farther along in the show. But we know enough. Like, they give us enough contextually within the first season for us to be able to piece that together. For us to realize this person is there's some maternal, maternal, like, characterizations that are added in their scenes together, and then we get that even more. How fucking dare he? As I record my podcast.
On the day of our podcast.
He comes into my house. I can't. Oh, he shut up now. Okay. He probably wants water. I forgot. You know what? I'm trailing off of what I said. I think it's useless. All right. Well, guys, Melanie, Shannon, people listening. I feel like we need to get to this one scene in particular, because I feel like we all three have a lot to say about this one scene in particular, and it's there's a lot going on in the scene and score wise. So, here we go.
Like to make another appointment, Mrs. McDonald? I'll play by ear. But thanks all the same. This is where you usually warn me to stay away from him, isn't it? Is that what you're about to do? Sorry to disappoint you. We're very lucky that he's come back at all, really. He's a very important member of this community, and anything that encourages him to stay here is very welcome. He enjoys your visits. His mood improves, and that's no bad thing. And what about yourself, Jean? Good afternoon, Mrs. McDonald.
None of us can take that scene very lightly, because there's just... Someone please hug our child.
Please hug Jean Beasley. Please.
Please, please,
If
please.
you see Jean Beasley on the street, please hug her immediately.
Someone please hug her and remind her that she deserves to be happy.
She deserves all good things.
God, I swear, it just, there's, I mean, where do we even start?
Can I go back to the Joy Lucian scene for 2 seconds? I know it might pain us to do so, but there are some really interesting things that come up in that scene that I think lead into this one. The first of which is incredibly shallow, and it's to say that I really love Joy's cardigan. It's very cute. Would never wear it myself, but I enjoy it. But when I realized that, I had to go back and watch the scene where Jean brings her into the surgery, because she and Jean are both dressed in the same colors. They're both wearing a pink. So Jean has like a pink top and a brownish beige skirt. And I think Joy's wearing a pink cardigan over a white shirt and like a beigey skirt. So they're in a very similar color palette, but the styling of their costumes is incredibly different. Joy looks stunning. and very pretty and sort of conventionally old school beautiful, whereas Jean looks like Jean looks, which is practical and beautiful and stunning in her own way, but in comparison to Joy is quite different. And the fact that they're both dressed in that same color palette sets up what I becomes sort of Lucien's internal issue in this whole episode, which is grappling between his feelings for both of them. So I really enjoy that. And then the other thing is that, so obviously they walk in and Lucien is like in blood. Jean kind of just doesn't even bat an eyelid when he does that.
He's literally just got a syringe in his arm. Like, that's just not even, that's not even like a big thing in that house.
Yeah. Joy walks in and says to him, "What on earth are you doing?" Which is something we hear Jean say so often, but the difference in the way they deliver their lines is so incredible and says a lot about them. Because Joy kind of says it slightly confused, but slightly bemused, but it's quite soft the way she says it, like, "What on earth are you doing?" Whereas Jean is usually shouting it at him.
Yes.
With quite a lot of force.
Well, Jean says it more in that inquisitive, like, clearly she's amused by the situation, but she just and slightly intrigued. I want to say it. I feel like there's a better way of saying it, but it's that reporter in her where she's just like, what is this? What's going on? You know what I mean? Sort of like the I want to know. Yes.
The fact that he's gonna mess something up, whereas Joy says it with this almost innocence, which is odd because she knows enough about him at this point to know what he's like, but she still says it without the sense of, oh, this could end badly, that Jean always have in her voice.
Jean always says it in the motherly, "You're going to kill yourself or blow this house up."
I love you, but you need to stop.
Please stop, please.
Yeah.
The please before you injure us or yourself. But I also love the fact, yes, but once again, like, Jean does not bat an eye. She's just like, and I feel like that's the moment where she's like, "Oh, he's home. Yep. Yeah. He's doing weird experiments in his study. This is, yep."
I'd forgotten what it was like until now, but now it's coming back to me.
Yep. She opens that door and she's like, and I'm not surprised. He's got a syringe in his arm and he's holding a tourniquet. Okay. Jean's like, at least there's no smoke this time. I feel like Jean is only slightly worried when things are when there are incendiary devices out. Only then does she,
or things that could explode.
Yes, only then is she even a slightly bit more worried. You know what I mean? Other than that, she's like, he's fine. He can figure his way out. Oh, but going back to this Jean and Joy scene for a minute, because the way that I love the way, and this happens a lot in the show, especially coming off of season 1, where they have their argument and Jean always refers to, clearly she's referring to herself and her own emotions, but she's referring to it as we, as like a whole, like we as a town and or household feel this way, but we all know that she means me, because the sense that when she's telling Joy, "We're so happy he's back," is that like moment of like, look, I know we don't see eye to eye, but he's back and he's happy, and that's all I care about. If that means that I have to deal with more of you, then I'll take that, as long as he is home and happy.
Mm-hmm.
Which pains me, but also is so in character for Jean.
Oh, completely. And I always feel, again, it speaks to that growth that she's had while he was away, where she has the awareness of how she feels for him in her actions. And so now it is a sense of, look, I just want him to be happy. So even if that's not with me, which she probably isn't thinking about right now.
I was going to say.
Actions without thinking about it in the literal sense of what that would mean in terms of a relationship or anything. I think she just knows that she feels very, very strongly for him in ways that she's not felt for anyone in a long, long time, or perhaps ever.
Or should. Yes. Or should. Like I think that's the main realization, is that yes, she cares deeply for this person, and yes, she's realized the extent to her emotions towards him, but I think the real like surprising factor is the fact that she knows she shouldn't, feel this strongly about this person because this person is her employer. Like, she didn't feel this way about Thomas. She didn't feel this way about anyone else. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure she felt something with Thomas. Clearly, he was more than likely a paternal figure in her life and was probably, you know, a good employer, things like that. But I like the idea that over the course that he was in China, she's realized. I don't think she's realized that she's like falling in love with him or anything like that.
No,
I think she's just realized there's something between them that shouldn't be there. So she's gonna just try and force it down. The Catholic in her is like, nope, force it down. Force it down.
Conceal, don't feel.
Yes. That's the Catholic in her.
Yeah, definitely. But she's also reached a level where she puts his feelings before her own in a way that she probably didn't in season 1 because she wasn't aware that it was there at all, even though she was feeling it. So it's the first time where she steps back and she's like, I'm really sorry to disappoint you, Joy, but I'm not going to try and turn you away because you make him happy and I just want him to be happy. Whatever that means for me is not the point here. The point is
he's here.
How you him. And that's why, to get to Melanie's point about the score, the Jean and Lucien theme plays in this scene, which is on the surface A, between Joy and Jean, and B, about Joy and Lucien, but it actually gives more information about Jean's feelings for Lucien than anything, and that's why their theme plays throughout. And
I have another thing to go off of that, because if you listen to that whole the Mrs. Beasley and what is it, Dr. Blake suite, there's clearly 3 portions of it. There's 3 different places, and there's 3 different like parts of the piece. There's clearly this is the Lucien piece, and it plays over some portions in like season 2, obviously, and like key moments for Lucien. But there's the piece where you know that it's supposed to equate anytime they have a scene that's romantic between the 2 of them, and it's what usually plays. It's what plays at the end of season 3. Yeah. And then the Jean bit of it, which is this bit right here, which is the like very light, feathery playing of the piano, and the like, it's the very soft part of the piece. It's that clearly you're supposed to recognize that that's Jean's portion of the piece. So yeah, whenever Melanie mentioned that piece, which when I watched the episode, I knew that song sounded familiar. I just I could not remember which part or which part of the soundtrack it was. But when she mentioned it was that suite, I went and listened to it, and I was like, oh well, yeah, obviously her portion of the song would play this part because it's such a key moment to where she is now. But it also just fits so beautifully because it's just this beautiful light piece of music that plays there. Where you're just,
I mean, purely for the like in editing, it suits the scene even if it didn't have the meaning behind it that it did. But I think the mixture of the 2 works.
It's because it's such a light. It's not a lighthearted piece, but it's such a beautiful piece that fits over this scene that does have a lot to break down in it, because it breaks down this weird dynamic of like, okay, clearly there's something going on between this housekeeper and her boss, but also what do you do whenever you become suddenly the other woman in this relationship, but not in the sense of they're in one relationship and I'm like, it's not like they're dating and I'm his mistress. This is more along the lines of he's living with this woman, and this is clearly the only woman that he sees on a day in and day out, and I'm sort of like wedging my way into this life that they have with one another. And I love the bit where Jean is mentioning how every time that his mood lifts after all of your visits, and there's just the look that Joy gives her as she's talking, because Joy is clearly more astute than Jean and Lucien are when it comes to their relationship. But that could be said,
definitely.
But that could be said about anyone in this town that meets the 2 of them. They're more astute than these 2 are. But it's the idea that, again, Joy's clearly pieced together all of these things and clearly knows that there's something there. And if this were a show that were set in a more modern time, this would be the scene where Joy would ask Jean if there was something going on. She would be more outright and be like, "Oh, so is there something going on between the two of you, or, you know, is this a workplace romance or something along the lines of that?" But obviously, again, this show not being set in modern day, that isn't said, but I feel like it's almost implied with the last question that Joy asks.
And also the fact that if this was set in modern times, I think Joy would see her as a legitimate rival or worry. But because it's not, I think Joy has the sense that she has feelings for him clearly, but she also has a deep sense of duty and where she sits in this. And there is still quite the opening here for me to establish myself as the romantic option, and Jean will remain the housekeeper as such.
Yeah, and because it plays into the obvious roles of women back in the day. You know what I mean? Which and that becomes more apparent later on in the episode when Joy and Lucien have their date final meeting. Yeah. Well, I mean, also the fact that Joy asks this question as Jean is walking back into the house, but I love the little bit, and it's just a little choice that that they made in either, I don't know, obviously it's probably Nadine that made the choice, but it could have been, Declan, where as she's turning around and she stops and she takes that she sighs before she turns around and she like plasters that fake smile on her face and she's like, "You have a good day," and then turns around to leave. I love that choice so much because it's a non-answer that speaks volumes.
All of her actions in this episode speak to something more than what she's putting on, which is so interesting.
Well, yeah, because they all speak to her clearly putting on some sort of act. Yeah. Whether or not, for herself or anyone else.
Yeah, a slight tangent. I was going through screen caps last night to pull together all of the ones of Jean smiling. And there are two very clear things you realize when you do that, which is that she has her fake smile and her real smile. And I can't wait until I finish collating this to actually go through and figure out just how often her fake smile is used over her real one. It's very rare that you get a real Jean smile. And the moments you do are quite interesting in comparison to the fake one, which she puts on a lot with Joy. But she puts it on a lot with Maddie and Lucien as well, which is...
See, and now that, I think, is more of the instinctual mother part, the maternal part of her, sorry. It's that role of, must pretend everything is good for the family, must pretend this is good news, must do this. You know what I mean? It's that, very, 50s, 60s role of a woman in the household of, everything is good, everything is happy, but it's also, it's also a Catholic. Just, you know what I mean? Everything is good and rainbows and sunshine, okay? Nothing bad is going on here.
But everything is actually the worst.
Everything is burning around me, but we're good. We're good. She's literally, it's that meme of the dog sitting in the house on fire. Nope, we're good. It's fine. It's just that.
Through the whole of seasons 1 to 3.
Yes.
And again in season 5. Yeah. Actually, that's Jean the entire way through the show.
I'm that's the entire show. Let's be real. We have moments where we have breaks of that, but it's still Jean.
Lucien, on the other hand, is Donald Glover running around over the chloroformed man, screaming.
Lucien is coming back in with the pizza, having no idea what's happened since he left.
No, that's Charlie.
Oh, no, but Lucien has that. He has the tendencies to be.
Yeah.
He has the tendencies to sort of come in and go, "What's happening?" Everyone around him is like, "Clearly, you know what's happened. Figure it out."
Very nicely into the rest of that second Jean and Joy and Lucien. It's very confusing that both of his interests start with a J.
Yes. I'm surprised I haven't made that mistake more
Yeah.
If we started recording. That's all I'll say.
That the Joy Lucian scene where she says something along the, they obviously have the moment where he starts talking about how he had once said that there were consolations to living in Ballarat. And
Yes. Wait, before we
back, do you want to play that?
Yeah, we can just play that. Let's just play that. We'll just skip to that because I have a lot to say about that. Yeah, we'll just play that. Let me just cue that up because I'm like, wait.
You told me once there were consolations to living in Ballarat. Are they still enough?
Goodness, did I say that?
You know you did. And don't wave it away with a joke. I'm interested.
Truth is, I was actually looking forward to getting back. Of course, I get back and things are different.
Different how?
Oh, usual ways. Someone dies, someone leaves. I guess I made the mistake of thinking that somehow all of this was permanent.
I could help, you know. Find ways to make life more bearable. If you let me.
Wouldn't that affect your employment with Patrick Tynan?
We're all adults, Lucian. So, what's going on at Town Hall?
Joy McDonald, you are shameless.
As I said, I'm interested. And Trevorrow did have a certain reputation.
No comment.
I'll take that as a yes. Thank you. Who's involved?
Bruce Beatty.
Thwarted ambition.
And I know you'll think I'm completely mad, but Patrick's in the mix.
Put that down to your own fixation.
Frances Trevorrow. Adeline Campbell, councillor for Central Ward.
What's her involvement?
Well, let's just say Graham Trevorrow's reputation. And I talked to Carl Laidley, the cleaner. Now I'm convinced he knows more than he's letting on.
He won't talk to you?
Well, I may have threatened him somewhat. Now, if you've finished with my pen...
I might need it. And it's a good excuse to see you later.
Why are you smiling?
I suppose this really is the only way of getting to know you, isn't it?
I had to play that all out in its entirety because I love that little bit at the end.
Yes, I'm so glad you did because that's what I wanted to talk about, that last bit at the end where she says, I suppose this is the only way to get to know you. Because there's the sense with Joy in that first scene where they're talking, and then again when she basically offers a relationship to him and his sounding block.
Exactly.
Where she recognizes when he doesn't react to that, because he really doesn't.
Nope.
That he's very closed off and that he doesn't offer himself to other people. And sort of Lucian's arc in this episode is feeling like all of the parts of Ballarat that had become his home and the beginning at the end of season 1 have started to fall away, and terrified that he might lose what he felt before he left and what he wanted to come home to, which, spoiler alert, is Jean.
Right?
Just not saying that in many words yet because he's a male and bad at expressing his feelings.
He's yet to realize that that's what he truly means by home.
Yeah. Yes. He's beginning his home, his sense of safety and purpose in living in Ballarat is all
exactly
home that he's built with Jean. And he feels like that's falling to pieces because the bits around it are falling to pieces. And then Joy says to him, is this the only way to get to know you? And when you think about that in comparison to how Jean has just become a part of every single part of his life. She's part of his home life. She's part of his work life. She's part of the GP life. She solves crimes with him. She is part of every single bit of who he is. She knows his past. She knows now what he wants for the future. And that's all just things that have come out in season 1 without her even trying. So to then have Joy think that the only way she can get to know him is by interrogating him, you see that even though they're sort of set up as very equal options at the beginning of the episode, they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucian probably, I think the only, not the only reason, but part of the reason I think that we get then that score underpinning that scene is that Lucian is recognizing the differences in the way that he thinks about Joy and the way that he thinks about Jean.
Yes.
As Joy is offering herself to him, or offering a relationship to him, not herself. That sounds way more risque than it actually is. Sitting in a pub.
A lot more risque than what's actually implied, but okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah, so I love that scene for so many reasons. It shows that, because Joy and Lucian have such a nice build up to a relationship in some ways. Like, they don't really, like, there's nothing wrong with the way their relationship progresses. Joy
It's
very yeah, she's very intelligent. They obviously enjoy each other's company, and I think if they were any two other people, they could have lived a happy life together.
Yes, because I have to say now, one, thank you for saying all of that about that scene, because you said it a lot more eloquently than I would have. So, because that's literally everything I had written down. Also, guys, if you don't already know, Shannon and I share the same brain. So about 98% of our thoughts are exactly what the other person has thought at one time or another.
Depending on the day, one of us can normally express it a bit more eloquently.
Yes.
We never know which one of us that's going to be.
Yep, it always changes constantly. It depends.
The sentence.
Yep, changes like every other conversation we have. Now, I've always had this theory about Joy, and I've talked about it briefly in other episodes of the podcast, where I feel like one of the like pulls that Lucian feels towards Joy is the fact that if this were, 20 years ago or so, she would have been the woman that he would have seen himself with. And if the war had never happened, and let's say he had married Mayland, but things hadn't ended well, right? Anything like that, he would have still seen himself ending up with, he would still always see himself ending up with someone, or thinking that he should be with someone like Joy. Like, that's the type of person that, like, if anyone had ever met him, they would have gone, yeah, that's the person you end up with. That's the person that like suits you, because you're both of equal mind and can counteract one another and things like that. Which, spoiler alert, is nothing to which he really truly needs in life. He may think that he wants that, but it's not what he needs, because what he needs is someone like Jean to call him out on his bullshit and to be there for him. And this ties into a scene later on, is that she's there for him, but she never takes on that like typical role that you would expect a female to take on in, in a male female relationship, where she's not the person that's going to sit there and like placate him with like, yes, I know life is bad, and oh no, your life is bad, poor baby, let me just sit here and like pat you on the back and tell you what that you've had a job well done. She's not going to be his mother, essentially. No,
he's complete equal in all the ways that he needs, even though Joy is the one presented in that way, because you get the sense that with someone like Lucian and someone like Joy, their careers mean so much to them that at some point, if they had entered into a relationship, they would have ended up choosing their careers over each other. Neither of them has the push to make that decision in any other way. Whereas Jean, with Lucian, she never lets him get away with his bullshit. She stands up to him and she makes him confront things in himself that he probably hasn't wanted to think about for the last 20 years. And because of that, he's able to grow. Added to that is the sense that Jean, like you said, she doesn't mollycoddle him and she doesn't mother him. She's actually quite argumentative with him, and she pushes back against him quite a lot, but she does it from a place of deep love and empathy because she knows him.
Yes,
and it
she
means
knows him. Yes.
Yeah, even if they're in a situation where she physically walks out of the house following an argument and he doesn't know if she's going to come back, part of him does actually know that she's going to come back because that's who she is.
Yes.
Whereas Joy is not that person. She doesn't actually know that much about him. She doesn't have the connection with him to call him out on his bullshit on a deep level.
Oh yeah.
On the top level, which is very sweet. Okay. Annalisa just like hit her foot or something. I don't know.
Yes, I did. I'm okay. I'll live.
But yeah, the intimacy in the two different relationships is completely different.
And I mean,
surface, the interaction, they both flirt, I think.
Mm-hmm. But they both flirt in two completely different manners, obviously.
Completely. And Joy does it with a sense of, obviously we're going to flirt because we're two very intelligent, good-looking people.
Exactly. Joy
does it just because she's supposed to, almost.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what they both do, honestly. If you were to break down every scene that they have together, because even in their first meeting when they go to their first dinner, it's a scene of like almost like we both know what we should be doing in this scene. We both know what we should be saying and things like that. It's more out of like purely, this is just how things are. I can't remember the word for that. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas, and even their flirting,
what we should be doing.
Yes, and even their flirting seems along the lines of like, oh yes, she's flirting with me, I must flirt back with her, and that's how things are. Whereas when it comes to Jean, her flirting is most of the times just offhandedly, not really happening. This is just it's so much more natural because there's no real like thought being put behind it. But when it comes to him and Joy, it's like, no, we must flirt with one another. We must, you know what I mean? Like this is just a thing.
People in Ballarat, we don't have a lot of other options. We must.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, we are supposed to be together. You know what I mean? Yeah. Societal rules dictate that we must act this way, and that is how we are to act.
They don't have feelings for each other, because I very much think that Lucien did feel a lot for her, and I believe that Joy felt the same for him.
Yes.
I really like Joy as a character, actually, as much as I don't want to, because why would you want to like the rival to your ship in a TV show?
But the rival of your ship leads to such great things, though, if done correctly, like Joy.
True. And I am an adult now, and I have come to love all of the TV characters for their own selves, because I am a proper adult now.
Now. She makes it seem like 6 months ago she wasn't.
6 months ago, I was not a proper adult, but now I am. And I want Joy for who she is. And I do really like her as a character.
Exactly. I mean, I do too. I love her, and I love this episode. I mean, I love her in this episode. I love her in the first half of this episode. But, I mean, going off of that, because we can even go the AU of if Joy had lived throughout this season.
A beautiful AU.
It would have, it would have been really beautiful because, and I mean, we don't say beautiful in the sense that it would have been fun to see Lucien with another person.
No.
It would not have. We would have hated every second, but I still would have secretly loved it because it would have then provided us with because we all love the trope of the proper pining. You know what I mean? Yes. We all love that trope. But it's also when in a show like this, it would have been written so well, or in such a way that it would have unveiled all of these other layers to both of these characters, because we would have seen the inevitable crash and burn between both Joy and Lucien, because again, this is the relationship that like everyone in TV land jumps into because they think it's necessary, or they clearly, this is always that relationship in TV world where one of the lead characters picks a different character that they think they're supposed to end up with, and then they have that like 6 months of happiness, and then suddenly there's that day where everything clicks and they go, yeah, no, this isn't what I want. This isn't happy. This is like
of what is supposed to be happening.
Exactly. This is textbook happiness. On paper, this is supposed to work really well, but it does not work. In reality, I want this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's whenever we have that. And if we had that on this show, I think it would have been so great. Granted, now I'm not saying anything against season 2, because season 2 is so well done.
Season 2 is beautiful, and I never want it to change.
Yes.
However, the joy of television is that you can entertain as many AUs as you want.
Exactly.
What if Joy had lived?
And we're just saying if we had been in that writer's room, we would have pitched this.
If I had been in that writer's room, though, there would have been so many pitches it would not be funny and they would have kicked me out.
You and me both. What are you talking about? We have literally the exact same like number of things on our list. I feel like if we ever were in a writer,
but if they had found a time machine and gone forward in time to now, what would it have looked like? And they'd be like, out now.
Yeah, I think if and when we ever find ourselves in a writer's room, it's going to be a writer's room that we either run or are either the heads of, because there's no other way anyone's going to employ us. They're going to be like, can you stop throwing out weird versions of this show? And meanwhile, me and you are like,
an anthology TV show so that every week had different.
But it's also like me and you would be like tapped into like the internet fandom of the show and be like, but it's what the people want.
The people also want an entire episode of Lucian without his shirt.
Yes.
Okay, we can't argue with the people.
And the writers are like, no. They're going to be like, you take this to Craig. He's going to say no. We're like, we will talk to him. We will get this to work.
He's allowed to have a guitar with him if he does it.
Exactly.
This is another thing I would like to see. Please give the man a guitar.
I'm pretty sure he's pitched
Don't
that.
tell me that Lucian Blake can't play a guitar.
I'm pretty sure he's pitched that a time or two, and they're like, no.
Some more.
Anyway. I feel like every time he's gone to pitch that, though, they're like, Craig, you already play the piano. We gave you that much. He's like, no, but, and they're like, no. And we've already implied you played the drums. We can't keep giving you instruments. And he's like, but, and they're like,
I want to know more about 1920s 20-year-old Lucian Blake playing the drums and
going to rock concerts.
Yeah, they weren't rock concerts yet, were they?
No, they weren't. They were concerts. I want to know more about that too. Oh, I feel like let's go back now and let's
totally was part of like the Glasgow arts punk scene though with people.
I'm not going to touch that with the 10-foot pole because that's going to lead me down a rabbit hole.
We won't get to the end of the episode if we go there.
Yeah, I will say that I do want to jump into this scene because this is where I have my little bone to pick with Declan.
Go for it.
I clearly it was a timed thing, but I also get mad because I'm like, this show runs at 59 minutes. Don't fucking play time things with me.
Kiss your hand. A little more passion, please. Right. Wipe that off.
That's hard to get out, Well, there's a lot more on that one. Or maybe that's a stronger lipstick. Or a lot more kissing.
I can't believe I didn't detect any lipstick on him during the autopsy.
It's not quite red. Bright red's popular with some people.
And that sends a message, is that right?
Oh, yes. Not necessarily.
That's a different kind of red.
It's much darker. It's stronger. It's a statement.
It's a statement. Saying what?
It's saying I'm a very attractive woman, but not conventional. She has more authority than that. And she has money. That's an expensive lipstick. It's not waxy, you see?
All right. Would it hold up in court?
Absolutely not. But it would in my sewing circle.
My bone to pick now is that when I was watching the scene originally, I was like, oh, what I would have killed to have seen Jean be the one to try on the lipstick and pretend to kiss her hand, right? Okay, well, she had because she has lipstick on her hand.
I know.
I noticed that in the cutaway. I was like, wait, you filmed this.
I feel your pain, my friend.
Declan, why would you not pick that scene? I'm like, I also then have
tells Jean to kiss her hand a bit more passionately.
Yes, but I also feel like he wouldn't need to. I feel like
he would have just like fainted with the thought of it. He couldn't have gone through with that. Please.
No, I feel like Jean was the first guinea pig, and that didn't work well. And then they were like, I feel like she did it the one time, and then things got awkward, and they were like, Maddie's home. Let's just get Maddie. Maddie, you come in here and help us. You can do this, right? Yeah, here you go. Here's some lipstick.
Yeah.
I love that
Mhm.
scene so much because the family that does scientific experiments together stays together.
Unless one of them moves to London.
Yeah, I
Not
was
that
gonna
I'm
say-
bitter.
I was gonna say at least for another year.
um,
Yeah, not that we're bitter at all.
yeah, but we are a little bit. We are a
Mhm.
little bit.
Mhm.
A little thing that this might mean nothing, but one thing that always amuses me is that they set up obviously the idea in, well, they don't set up, it's a known idea, but that idea that women who wear very strong shades of red lipstick
Yes.
are a certain type of woman.
And
If you
Joy,
have a look at Joy's lipstick color,
I thought that same thing.
interesting for Jean to then be commenting on it. Jean does herself wear quite a bright shade, but not as bright.
It's
Obviously.
more, yeah, it's clearly more of a rosy, peachy,
Yeah.
orangey.
So it's not.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
However, her nail polish color is always a bright red.
Yes.
I love it. I
I
love
was gonna mention that. I've always noticed that.
Yeah, for whatever reason, she's not putting on her lips because she's not that kind of woman. But she
will
puts
go on
bright
nails.
red on her fingers, and I love it. It's such a beautiful
Yes.
little detail.
It's such a beautiful little this is as dangerous as she'll take things.
Yes.
It's on her hands. Because I always noticed how bright red her nail polish is, especially in a time like this where it would have been more socially acceptable for her to have a nice nude color or a pale pink.
Yep.
Maybe a light pink, light red color. But no, she's like, no, full on vibrant red. It's going to pop. Also, I would like to point out that in the spoiler alert, the last episode, she had on a very bright red lipstick when she was walking around in that hospital, and I was like, yes, girl, put your pants on and your bright lipstick.
She's wearing red lipstick.
She's got those bright red, yes, she's got her bright red nails on. I was like, yes.
No question about what she is doing in season 5.
Exactly. In season 5, she's like, oh no, I have come to full term with what I'm doing with my life, and I do not care who knows, and who cares.
I care about Jesus though.
Yeah. Every time
we'll get into the Catholicism of the matter at another day.
Yes, that's a whole other situation that Shannon and I have been slowly trying to dig away at.
The notes from 7 years ago to make it through that.
I had to dig deep into my catechism days, and I was like, didn't think this would ever be relevant.
Who knew?
Who knew?
I love Sewing Circle. I want more from Jean's Sewing Circle. I want them back.
I want the Sewing Circle. I want the film club. I want all of the clubs.
Talking of Jean flirting, though, the way that she says, but it would in my sewing circle, slaps the handkerchief on her hand.
I know!
And then saunters out of the room. I was like, girl, please calm down. He can't handle you at this level yet, all right? You need to slowly build him up.
I love how sometimes she's so unabashedly flirting with him, but I love it because she does it. She knows him so well because there's a few other moments where she's clearly flirting with him. But I lost my Australian.
Well, I'm in the middle of recording something, so you're now going to be shouting in the end of the recording. Sorry, my father calling me down to dinner.
I figured that much. Well, no. So there's so many times where she's unabashedly flirting with him. But I love the fact that she knows him so well because she knows when he's engrossed in a case, especially when he's in the middle of like sciencing things. He's not really paying attention to his surroundings. So she's just flirting just to flirt with him because there's that other moment in season 1 when they're talking about doing his bookkeeping and she's like, and he's mentioning things about electroshock therapy and she's like, I'll remember that next time when you don't give me your receipts. And she's clearly flirting with him, but it just goes over his head, but she knows it too. She knows it.
And she's like, that's fine. It's been a while.
Yeah, she's doing it just to have fun. Like she's just doing it to have fun.
Yeah. Further, giving what are the words I want? edit this bit out.
Oh, I'm editing this out. Melanie it has awoken.
Oh. Tell her to come join us again. For those who are wondering, I'm not just talking over Melanie. Melanie.
Yeah, oh no, Melanie was here, guys. She just kind of fell asleep on us, so I just like threw her out of the recording for her sake, so that she could sleep and didn't have to hear us yelling because she still had the headphones in her ear.
No.
She's texting me now, but I'm trying to convince her to go back to sleep for a few more hours.
Smart.
Because she does have to be up in like in 2 hours, so just let her sleep for the next 2 hours.
I can't remember what I was going to say. It wasn't important. I just love the fact that she flirts with him.
She flirts with him. Also, can we mention the fact that he asks, "Will this hold up in court?" And Jean goes, "Absolutely not." How would you even know that? One, why would you ask?
The Ballarat police. The other does not.
One, why would you ask? Two, how the fuck do you know this anyway, Jean?
I like the fact that Jean knows, though.
Oh no, I do too.
I
And I'm like,
so confident.
oh yeah, she knows. She's just like, no. I've been to a court proceeding or two.
You know what? I wouldn't put it past her.
Wait, what's happening? I don't. Oh my god, you've had a long day. Go to sleep. Oh please.
Okay, so are we skipping to the death of Joy now?
Oh, I was actually gonna mention the dinner scene when we talk about Maddie talking about her study.
Yep.
Give me 1 second.
I actually wrote no notes on that scene.
I wrote like one line, that's it, but I just loved hearing it. It's such a well, now I'm gonna laugh even more at what they're eating for dinner because you had to go on your little mention how they eat the same thing every time.
I don't know if you can quite see this, but there is a new video.
Wait, too bright. Lower your brightness. Wait, what is this? What's happening? Oh, well, all right. Well, everybody pause and open up.
Pause for a moment because Craig McLaughlin is doing something.
Craig's got a video. Got to look at Craig's video. I hear that sultry voice.
I'd just like to point out that he's got a framed photo of a guitar in his hallway.
Oh my fucking god, of course he does.
Why does he still have the beard?
Wait, where'd you find this?
Facebook. It just came up on Facebook.
Okay, hold on. I opened up Tumblr right now because I saw something and I was like, ooh, someone did this an article about Janet King. What?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I'll read that later.
Please keep funding the beautiful gays, ABC. You're not funding anything else.
Just give us that.
My beautiful lesbians. That's all I need.
Oh my god. Oh. I can't. Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Lucian Blake? I'm sorry, I was expecting him to say that. I'm also a very big fan of this outfit.
Yeah.
I yell about you on my Sunday nights, sir. He's so proud of himself. Look on the cover. He's spending with these guys. Stop. He's clearly having way too much time. I mean, way too much fun sending these out every week. I feel like he's also like, I've waited fucking 9 months to talk about these episodes. I know, believe me, every time I see a new video with them, I'm like, why do you still have the beard? Well, I mean, he's shaved most of it off now. But I'm still like, you're still not clean shaven.
No.
You're still kind of scruffy, sir.
Maybe he's just keeping it for these videos.
Maybe he
Because
will.
he knows what you like.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. He also doesn't cut his hair. He mentioned how he likes to cut his hair when he raps too. Maybe he's just like, I'm gonna let the curls run free.
Might need the hair for Rocky Horror.
Oh, you're right. But still, he's a man. His hair grows back really quickly.
Wigs are a thing that exists.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Melanie has been put to rest. All right, listen. Not. Oh my God! I just realized what I said.
Spoiler alert.
She's been put to bed. Here.
The episode was too much for her to handle.
Oh, that's funny.
Love you, Melanie.
Okay, let's just listen to this guy.
The role of Melanie will be played by me.
Yes. And now, from now on, the role of Melanie Marsh will be played by Shannon Escher. Someone in a different country, different accent.
I'm not going to accent.
Don't.
I'm just going to pretend that she woke from a coma with an Australian accent.
Yes, we don't play the accent game, okay? She doesn't do my accent. I don't do her accent. We have this state. we have this mutual understanding in this relationship.
It comes from a place of respect.
Yes.
And love.
Yes. I do not play the accent game. My internal monologue may sometimes slip into an Australian accent, but that is my internal monologue, which I caught the other day. Now we're just gonna listen to this family dinner because it's adorable.
There's a cockatoo at the family.
Wait.
Classes in Melbourne.
Social work. Social work. Why social work?
Well, nursing's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So is medicine. But I want to see more of life. Make a difference for a change.
Make a difference, eh? A little harsh on medicine, don't you think?
Well, I didn't mean that. Don't tease her. I'll stay on as district nurse until I graduate. And after that,
No. Good for you. Experiencing more of life is nearly always a good thing. Did you know social workers used to be called almoners? Always went back to them.
Oh, first family dinner of the season.
And such a good one. They're just the best parents, guys.
They really are. The idea that he's so hurt that she would do something besides medicine.
And that Maddie takes it so seriously, but Jane's just like, please stop teasing our daughter.
Jane's like, no, Lucian, you congratulate her.
Be nice for once.
Don't play games. Jean's just like, don't play games. She spent all day working up to have this conversation with you.
She's the only child of ours who stayed at home, okay? Please.
I love the idea that Jean knew how, like, anxious or, scared slightly Maddie was to have this conversation. So she was like, I'm just going to throw this out at dinner. And I'm going to throw her into the deep end and she's going to have this conversation.
But I'm going to be here for moral support.
I feel like if we had more time, spoiler alert, in season 4, that a similar moment would have happened when Maddie announced that she was leaving.
Can you imagine, though, a season 4 with Matty?
Oh my God, stop. Because could you imagine a season 5 with Maddie?
Maddie, like, throwing tea out of them to stop them making out in the kitchen.
Oh my God. No, more like Maddie, like, walking into every room yelling out, "Is it safe to come in now?" after catching them sharing one kiss. Which is like, from then on, every time she walks into a room, yelling and announcing herself before she enters the room, and they're just like, we're eating breakfast, and she's like, yeah, well, I never know with you two. You're newly engaged. But also Maddie knowing clearly full on what Charlie and Rose are doing, and then just calling them out in the middle of like family dinner, and Charlie's like, what are you doing? No, and Maddie's like, well, really, why was she leaving your room last night? Huh?
Like, do we need to put like a system in place so we know who is with whom at any given moment? And everyone is like, what are you talking about?
I would love the idea that Maddie would then start being catty towards everyone because she was alone. Or like she was the only one that wasn't coupled off, and so she would just start being mean to everyone and just like calling them all out in the middle of the day, and they were just all like, "What? No, we weren't. Just yeah,
We're innocent.
Maddie's like, "Oh yeah, really? I saw Jean and you leaving the study last night, rather late."
We've literally been doing that for 5 seasons, Maddie. Exactly.
She's like, "I know."
I've been putting up with this.
But what's it
And
mean now?
matching off with like a really gorgeous English doctor.
Oh yes, we've both decided that that's yes, but both
He may or may not be Oliver.
yes, a very beautiful English doctor who also just lets her like run free, doesn't try to hold her back, just knows how she is, and he's just like, no, I'm just here, I'm just gonna be the work husband.
Like very little clue what she gets up to, but likes it that way, and is like, she's much smarter than I am. Yeah.
He's like, and he's not even that big of a doctor at like the hospital he works at, to the point where he already knows that like if they ever do have children, he just stays at home to raise the children. He just knows full on. He's just like, I'm gonna be the dad. I'm gonna be the stay-at-home dad.
Faints with shock.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm just a stay-at-home dad, guys. I already know. I'm not even gonna question her. Have you met my wife? He's just like, have you met my wife?
I love him already. Oh, anyway, let's.
And I think now we can. Yes, good little happy headcanon to segue us into the death of Joy.
The death of Joy. I think it's such a beautiful moment that they have Matthew come to tell Lucian this in person.
Yes.
Such a character thing that didn't need to happen. It doesn't progress the plot in any way, shape, or form how Lucian finds out. They could have simply had a knock at the door or the phone ring or anything.
We didn't, because we didn't even need to see. Yeah, we didn't need to see any of that. It could have just been the phone ringing, and then it cut to him walking in.
The scene where they walk in, but they have Matthew come there. Really lovely moment.
And it's such a because it's such a brief moment, but also just further cements their friendship.
Yeah.
And I like to think that at that moment, Lucian realizes that, you know what, so many things have changed and left him. And now one more thing, another horrible thing has gone wrong in this town, but he still has these people to like lean on, or these people that are going to be there for him.
Spoiler alert, my closing statement for this episode is going to be on that topic, but we're going to get there at the end.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's the whole scene of him going in there to see Joy just feels like my heart is being ripped out, because the look, the sheer, and it's such a small look, because whenever he's walking up to her body and the second he turns that corner and he sees her, the way his eyes just kind of like they like go big and his mouth just falls open, because he had been preparing himself to find Joy dead, but it's still nothing compared to the actual sight of seeing her lying on the floor. And then I'm sure that like I'm sure that they had only told him that she had died. I'm sure that they didn't tell him it looks like she was thrown or fell off the like.
Well, they don't really have that established until afterwards that she definitely was. Yeah.
But the second he sees her, he already has that figured out.
Craig, like, he really knocks it out of the park. The whole rest of this episode is just stunningly accurate. It's so raw.
It's so raw and subtle, because it's these little subtle movements or these subtle like choices that he makes where I'm just like, oh, how? How? It's too much.
He's very, very good in it, and it's very emotional to watch the way that he continues to react in small moments. Yes. He can pull himself back and be scientific when he absolutely needs to be, but he can't help it affecting him in bursts throughout.
Which is so true to what people do in time when things like this happen. Oh, because I was going to say, especially because we see him having this reaction as he sees her, and he's trying to stem it down because he knows Matthew is still there, and he knows that they still need him in this capacity as police surgeon. But then as soon as Matthew says that he's got someone else lined up to do the autopsy, you kind of see him start to allow himself to break a bit. He allows himself to kind of go, okay, I don't have to be as professional because this isn't really my case. I can, and then as he's responding though, his voice breaks as he responds, but he's still trying to control it.
Yeah. I was thinking as I was watching the scene as well, the comparison for Lucien in that he never saw his wife's body or he's never seen his wife dead.
Yes.
So it is the first time he's ever had to deal with that, which it's only just hit me. We find out at the end of the episode, this is the first time that he has actually had confirmation that Maylin is dead, which obviously, spoiler alert, she's not.
She's not.
At this point in time, he's only just found out like weeks earlier.
Exactly.
That his wife is dead.
He is in fact dead.
20 years living for the fact that he might one day find her and his daughter. He's just found out she's dead. He comes home, and then he finds out that the other woman with whom he has potentially been envisaging a future with is now dead and right in front of him. And all of that is falling onto him in this one moment.
And
God,
again,
it's a lot. Wow.
Yes.
If you see Lucien Blake on the street, please give him a hug.
Please give him a hug and tell him he deserves all the happiness in the world.
Yes.
I mean, also, I have to. My one note for whenever he receives the autopsy report is literally, I just put, "No, sir, not today, not today, Satan." Okay.
That's that beautifully.
Just the way that he performs that scene is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
The one thing I've written down for that scene is Matthew going, "You might want to go home," and all I've written is, "Have you met him?
Have you your best friend, Matthew?
Come on, mate. In what world is Lucien not letting this consume him entirely?"
And,
he lets people who he doesn't know and consume him entirely. He's not resting until this is solved, and he doesn't.
It's one of those Matthews just like, I had to try. I had to try. It's like, oh boy, why? And did I don't think I did grab it. Okay, so this one little moment, and I think I only have like 2 or 3 notes about this scene because it's such, this scene, I'm so happy we got this scene because this is another scene that didn't even necessarily need to be in the episode because it adds no real value to the plot, and if taken out, does not throw off the actual pacing of the episode. So let's just, I'm leaving it as a surprise for you.
Oh gosh.
Desk. Lucien, I'm so sorry about Joy. Brought you some lunch. Thought you might be starving by now.
Thank you, Jean.
Will you be home later?
I don't know.
No. There'll be dinner either way.
It's such a there's a lot said with the way that Jean is reacting in that scene to everyone else.
Yes.
I love, because I love especially, I think my favorite bit of that episode is just how they're reacting to Matthew being in the room as they're trying to have this conversation.
Yeah, there's so much unsaid.
Yes.
Between the two of them.
And so much that's implied with the way that they're looking at one another. Yeah. Just the looks that they're sharing.
Yeah. And Jean also coming into this situation having no idea how he's going to have reacted to it, I guess. She doesn't really know what he and Joy's relationship is. She's just been able to sort of guess based on what she's seen and the way that Lucien's acted. But she probably doesn't know how he feels for Joy.
She can assume. I'm pretty sure she can safely assume how he would have felt.
but she wouldn't know to what extent. Like,
Yes, you're right.
falling for her, is he fond of her? Does he like having her around? Is he in love with her?
Yeah, because at this point, Jean would have just assumed they were already dating.
Yeah. Everyone else treats Lucien in this scene like he's lost his partner or his girlfriend. And so it's safe to assume that Jean might think something similar was in place, even though she isn't aware of it. And so she walks into that with her own feelings for Lucien a mess, having just gotten him back, knowing why he was over in China, but not knowing what happened with that. And she brings him sandwiches, which is so beautiful because it's something so tangible and real and intimate in a strange way. Like that idea of bringing some food to provide for them, to sustain them through something difficult, is very universal. It's something that people fall back on all the time as a way to show that they care. And it's such a Jean thing to do. Like, she's probably the woman in town who bakes a casserole whenever someone loses someone, or whenever someone has a baby. She'd be the one coming around with food. And so in that moment, obviously the first thing she could think of was, he's been there all night.
I have to feed him. Yeah.
To make the rest of the day, and he's not going to do that himself. So that's my job. Yeah.
You know what's funny is that I always... And it's a parallel of, spoiler alert, the scene from season 4. Yeah, from later on in season 4, when it's that kidnapping episode, and he comes home and she goes, I have a clean shirt here ready for you to go. Because she's always ready with these, like you said, like these tangible things that she knows he needs. Like, she knows he's not going to talk to her because she knows he's clearly not in the right headspace. So she knows, you know what, the only thing I can do is keep him moving along, keep his day going. So what are the things that I know he needs to keep going? And I feel like she also knows that he can't properly deal with anything because she knows that he still has to solve this problem. He says this puzzle. He won't properly deal with anything until this puzzle gets solved, until this case is closed and he can go home and finally let these like demons wash over him. You know what I mean? So she's like, no, I need to keep him going. He needs food. I'm going to go feed him. He's been in the same suit for 2 days already. He needs a clean shirt. I need to make sure that he's clothed, dry, and has food in his stomach.
That little scene, it's in season 1 where he runs out of the house and she stops him to throw an apple at him. Little things like that are such beautiful additions to scenes for their characters. The way that they take care of each other. Exactly.
And with the exception of later on in season 4, where clearly she's offering him the clean shirt, and they have that moment of just where they both have their moment together because they haven't seen each other in a day or two. And then they're in a relationship at that point, or whatever that is. But leading up to it, there's such little intimate moments that they have that are really great in establishing the type of relationship that they have with one another. And it's that weird, it's not weird, but it's a relationship where they're not dependent on one another, you know, because unlike other couples or if this had been any other show, it would have been a couple where they were very dependent or they relied solely on that other person thing and this one thing only. Whereas here it's like, no, they can fully function as separate entities, you know what I mean? They have for so long, but it's just nice that every now and then there's just someone there to kind of go, hey, you didn't eat today, here, have a sandwich, or hey, maybe you should change your shirt, you know what I mean?
They're equals in the way that they interact with each other. And they're wholly independent people who better each other in some way.
I also just I feel like had Matthew not been in the room, there would have been a hug exchanged.
Oh gosh, yeah, or at least a hand on a shoulder.
Yes, there would have been something
on the shoulder of comfort.
But I love how even Matthew already knows that there's something there, because he feels very like the way he looks away whenever Jean walks in, because he's like, I need to leave, but it's too late. She's in the room. I'm just gonna shuffle these papers. He's just like, I'm just going to shuffle these papers. This is awkward. I'm not going to make eye contact with anyone, even though it's like, sir, this is your office. But I love how even he realizes that there's clearly she wants. They both want. There's still more being said in that scene that isn't actually being said. You know what I mean? And he knows that he's the reason behind it, because even when as she's leaving, she keeps kind of like looking to Matthew, like, "Could you leave us alone for like 10 seconds?" But I also I love that moment, because I love any moment that Jean and Matthew share a scene of any substance, because it just fuels my headcanon.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Just fuels my headcanon. Like, I feel like in that scene in particular, Matthew's secretly just like, she's such a good person.
Like we said earlier, we have found a way to ship nearly every
Combination.
adult on this show. Of like the four.
The four, yeah. I was like, of the four elders.
Adults.
No. Just the four elders. They're the ones that we've managed to come up with we've not only come up with the combinations, but also the headcanons to support these.
Oh gosh, yeah. We have the AUs behind it. Can you imagine the garden that Alice and Jean would have in their house, and how many Begonia festivals they would win?
Don't even go there. I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now, because it will be like 3 hours of me yelling about them.
Side note, where do we have much more in the episode? Because I need to get food sometime soon.
We have, I think we only have one scene left. Hold on. I think we have 2 scenes left.
Scenes both by the lake?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I was like, I think that's all we have left. Yeah, it's like 2 minutes. Okay, let me get lake. I want a fucking happy moment by this lake.
Same. The lake gets a really bad rap in this show. Oh, no. I have a point on that slightly.
Oh, really? Should I'll play the scene and then.
Matthew said you left almost an hour ago.
I wrote to his parents a letter sending my condolences.
She was very fond of you.
Yes. And look where that got her. She went to that town hall because Osgood is sent her there. And I couldn't protect her. Mind you, I shouldn't be surprised. I couldn't protect my wife, my own daughter. Hell, I couldn't even prevent Danny from going to Melbourne. Don't get me started on Nell Clasby. Bloody hell.
Well, if you're going to wallow around in self-pity, I might just head home. Joy was there because she wanted to be. And the same goes for all of us. You think you have to do everything by yourself, Lucy. It's not possible. You do your best. And sometimes it's just not enough.
Gee, they both died. In exactly the same place.
Well, that sounds very deliberate.
You think so?
Absolutely. Someone went out of their way to make that happen. So, whatever it is, the answer has to be at the town hall.
Jean solves the matter once again.
That scene just basically breaks down their entire relationship in the entire show.
Yeah. And I feel like we don't really need to talk about it that much because we've already covered most of the points that come from it.
Exactly.
Jean does not let him get away with his bullshit or wallow in anything, while at the same time she doesn't belittle his feelings.
Yes.
Or his experiences, which is the most important thing, I think.
It's the most healthy way to deal with it.
Yeah, she acknowledges his pain while also pushing him to work through it and deal with it.
But deal with it in an adult way. Like, you don't need to sit, like, you're gonna sit here and be drunk. Fine, I'm not gonna deal with you. Like, if you're gonna deal with this by drinking, then I'm not. You know what I mean? But I love the fact that she does all of that, but then she takes a moment to remind him that, obviously this is not your fault. Like, clearly you cannot control everything, because someone as intelligent as Lucien would always feel like they could control everything in their life. And so when something doesn't go according to plan, obviously they're going to feel immense guilt about it because you know what I mean? Because he's going to feel like I should have, and especially in this instance, or in the instance because he especially brought up his family, of like, that should be the one thing that you should be able to control. You should be able to control their safety or their well-being more than anything. So she knows I mean, I'm pretty sure she can gather that that's really the root of this whole like breakdown, is that clearly something had to have happened in China for him to come back and react it this way. Because while the death of Joy is this one sad occurrence and is this one thing, his reaction and henceforth reactions to that are clearly, just described. They're a part of something more. Thank you for finishing that more eloquently.
No one has the ability to wrap you over the knuckles, but also hug you like Jane Beasley.
Exactly.
In the same breath that she's telling him, especially through her tone and the way she addresses him, that he needs to stop acting this way if he wants anything to move forward. She also is telling him that all of the people in his life who love him are there because they want to be, because he's worthwhile.
Exactly. Yes.
There's just so many layers to what she's saying to him. You can't control the universe. You can't control other people either.
Exactly.
And the reason you can't is because we're all actively choosing to be in your life because we love you and because you're only Jane Beasley could pack that all into one.
And I gotta give props to Stu, because I would imagine if we were to see the script for this episode, those lines in particular, if I were to read those lines, I wouldn't be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's so much that's being said in those few sentences, you know what I mean? That it's like, there's so many, like you said, there's so many layers that need to be added in the performance, that if you were reading them on page, you'd be like, okay, this scene doesn't really feel all that important. You know what I mean? Or like, why is she so, I feel like if you were to read the script, this scene could come off as her being really mean to him.
Yeah, quite dismissive of what he's going
through. Really dismissive and just kind of like, well, this is kind of a harsh way to respond to him if you know that he's in pain. But it's just the way that they chose everything about this scene.
And the way that it's to a lot of the things happening in the episode, but also things that have happened in past episodes and what will happen in future episodes.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know if this is deliberate, but I can't help but feel, watching Jean's delivery of the scene, of the lines about how you can't control what happens in life, in the spoilers context of what we later learn about Christopher. And
I was about to say that. I was about to say that. Yes.
It speaks volumes about the way that she herself is dealing with that. Actually, it would be fascinating to see that scene and what she says up against the speech that she gives to Ruth Dempster at the end of the episode about Christopher and his death.
I thought the same thing when I was watching it, because I was like, that scene is there's clearly more to that line.
Yes.
There's clearly,
whether or not had Jean's entire backstory padded or that part of it padded out at that point, you don't know, but it feels like it was with an awareness of where they wanted to take her character.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it feels like it was, because it feels like, I mean, when it comes to this show, I feel like they have these things planned out way in advance.
Yeah, they have an idea of where their characters are coming from and where their characters are going. I always feel like their characters are not moving without reason.
Exactly.
Established.
And this show it's written well enough that you can clearly see that. You can clearly tell that this isn't something that they set up an episode ago. You know what I mean? No, this isn't.
Writers of Dr. Blake Mysteries. We love you.
Shout out to Shannon's coworkers.
No, I sadly, no, I do not work with any of them.
Really. I mean,
one of them.
Yeah, I meant like just like in the grand scheme of things, you kind of do.
For them.
Yeah, you work for them, kind of. You know what I mean? That's like we're being technical here. You work for them. But, okay. Now I think we need to let's get to this final scene because there's so much.
The final scene. So then I
There's a
can
lot.
get to my final closing statement.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, here we go. Ah,
They used to come here too.
Yes, I remember as a boy coming down here with Dad. It was wonderful.
Do you mind if I join you?
Please, hopping out of the cold.
Enjoying the view?
Isn't it something?
What happened with your daughter, Lucy?
I have a photograph.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yes, isn't she? I'm told my wife died shortly after leaving Singapore, and thankfully the boat made it to the mainland. And Lee was taken in by a lovely local family. She's 23 now. Of course, it's funny, isn't it, in my mind, even though the years have marched on, she's always been a little girl. Anyhow, she really didn't want to see me. She asked me to leave. I don't know if I'll ever see her again.
Oh, surely you will. What will you do now?
Now I'm going to drive you and I out.
I mean,
Oh, it's a beautiful end scene.
it really is though.
They do final scenes between Lucian and Jean particularly well on this show. But this one in particular just is very beautiful and yeah, I have a lot of love for that scene.
What it always gets to me is the fact that whenever he's so proudly showing the picture of Lee and he's talking about her, and I love how they gave him the line of she's always going to be that little girl to me, because I'm always fascinated by that, because you always hear about people who have had kids that have run away, or you know what I mean, they've been separated and then they see them again as adults, and you're kind of like, you have that weird, you still see them as like the 4-year-old, 5-year-old or whatever, and now you see them as the adult and you can't really process the difference.
Yes,
because they're two different
like people meeting a stranger.
Yeah, exactly, because they're two different people. There's that child that you knew, and suddenly there's this adult. You know what I mean? So, and I wish we could have found out more about how that meeting went about.
Yeah, and I've thought over time that how sad is it that they sort of, that storyline is in some way wrapped up, or at least I remember feeling that when I watched it for the first time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it is the most realistic way that could have gone, because she doesn't know him. She has no clue who this man is. He's not
exactly
related to the world she exists in any way. Even it's not even like they have the context of.
And honestly, she would have had no recollection of who he was anyway.
Yes, none whatsoever, and her life would have just been horrific for a long time. So why would she want to think back to that?
Exactly. And I mean, here's much
that she would not want to have to deal with him yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense, and it's just so heartbreaking because, like you said, they're literally, at this point, there's two completely different strangers. So you've lived your life, you've dealt with this, and she was so young when this happened that I kind of feel like she doesn't remember, obviously, she probably does not remember anything about him or Maylin, but she probably doesn't even remember anything about the war happening. Because when you're that little and then suddenly she's adopted and now she's being raised by these two people, she's probably just like, these two people are her parents and that's it. I'm pretty sure they had mentioned that she was in, you know what I mean, that they got her, they had found her, or she, you know what I mean, something along the lines of she was.
Because later on he says something about Lee growing up in an orphanage.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that's just like a timeline issue, or if they just sort of muddled their way on the scene they wanted.
Well, no, I think what would have happened was she would have been on the boat to Singapore, so she would have gone there and then been put into an orphanage, just dump all of the kids that we can find coming in,
and then the family.
And then a family would have come in. You know what my question is? I've always wanted to know, and I've always been intrigued to know. I'm assuming it was a Chinese family that came in and adopted her. It would have been really interesting if it had been an English family.
Yeah.
Because that was a thing that happened, especially after the war, where a lot of these expats that had been stationed in these countries, these couples had gone in and they would have adopted these children who had been, fled these war-torn countries and had their parents killed, or it had been assumed that their parents were killed. You know what I mean?
She's what, 3 maybe when the war breaks out. It's sort of established that Lucien and Maylin probably spoke English at home, because Maylin had a very English-leaning family.
So she would have spoken English.
Lee didn't know the language of where she ended up, so one would assume that she was English-speaking.
Mm-hmm. Well, he mentions that because he mentions that she would have been scared and she wouldn't have spoke the language, which granted, she could have also, that could have also been, she didn't speak Malaya, but she spoke Mandarin.
Yeah.
But I mean, I doubt it was that. I doubt it was more like she spoke English.
Probably was slightly bilingual in the way that 3-year-olds.
Exactly. Like, I feel like she was as bilingual as I was at 3, which, it was like conversational English and,
a predominant language.
Exactly. So I feel like she would have known as much English as a toddler would have known. But still, I feel like that would have been a giveaway, and maybe she could have ended up with an English-speaking family.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm trying to remember, do we see the letters that he gets from her later on?
We do? Or do we see it on screen?
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember if they're written in English or if they're written...
No, because Lucien writes to her in...
He does, right? In Mandarin, I assume? Yeah, so...
And the assumption is that she's lost all of her English.
Yeah. So okay, so maybe she would. So then clearly she was. I would have thought it would have been an interesting tidbit had she been adopted by an English family.
Definitely. I mean, I'd love for her to come back in season 5, or in the television,
or the movie, or the movie. I would love for them to visit.
They should just go on a little trip around the world. They can visit Adelaide. They can visit wherever the hell Jack is. They can visit China. They can visit London.
You know what? They can visit China. They can cheat China. Okay, you don't gotta show me China. Just put them in a room together and tell me it's China. Okay, you can afford that on a budget. Okay, I know that's in a budget that's affordable.
Yeah, this is the ABC we're talking about. True.
Yeah, I'm like, this is an ABC budget. You can afford that. Don't. Yeah, I'm like, you don't have to like do anything to make it seem like they're in China, except for the fact some set dressing. That's all I need. Some set dressing.
We could crowdfund for season 6.
Look, anyway. I was thinking about that today, but we're gonna
Actually, and then, with every cloud, they might consider that. Oh my god, what if they did that?
I know. As I said, I was thinking about it because of that specific reason. All right. Now going back to this, I love Jean's little bit where he goes, I'm never going to see her again. And she's like, well, no, you will. And I love the parallel to the end of the season.
Yes.
The conversation that her and Lucien have. And the fact that they both book in the season, I'm just like, fucking yes.
These two and their wayward children.
They're wayward children and their hearts that are so big and so full of love.
Yep.
It's just...
Yeah.
It's such a great parallel to the two scenes.
Child already.
Please give them a child, please.
No. It is a beautiful, and it would be very easy, I think, because Lucian and Jean are set up as such good parental figures to Danny and Matty in particular, and then Charlie somewhat, even though he probably doesn't need as much parenting and they don't try to parent him as much. It would have been easy to give them kids that just had responded to that good parenting in a very positive way. But they didn't, which is so much more realistic. And obviously they're incredibly good writers, so they would write something realistic. So it really hits home that they have very difficult relationships with all of their children. But they love them so very much, and that's what holds them together as families, separately from each other and with their children, but also together, and then also with their extended family, is that they love and respect each other enough to keep coming back to those relationships even when they hurt. And it's the same way they are with each other. Even when this hurts, we can't give up on each other.
Because that's just love, you know what I mean? That's just both familial love, you know what I mean, and romantic love, and the way that they operate as human beings. And
exactly. That's what together.
It's like, no, I'm not gonna forget about you, and I do not care. I'm going to sit here and hug you until you hug me back, kind of situation. You know what I mean? Like, be angry, but I'm going to keep hugging you because I love you so much.
I'm just going to keep turning up every single day of your life to be there for you.
And you cannot tell me not.
That's the way that Lucian and Jean interact with each other.
Oh, yeah. With everyone in their lives, too. With everyone in their lives. It's just, was I gonna, No, wait. One last little bit, because I love her last little line, and I love every time I watch the episode and I catch it when she stops to question what he's going to do next, because there's so much meaning behind it, because clearly she wants to know what he's going to do next, obviously with his daughter, but also she's still uncertain as to if he's home to stay. You know what I mean? Because again, she's got all this evidence to prove that he's so flighty and so quick to react, and he reacts before he thinks. But I think he reacts before he thinks, honestly. Like, he just does it and then goes, oh, wait, no, should have done that.
There's a history of running away to a certain extent.
From everything.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively, he will run away from things. So she knows that, because he's clearly just literally run away from something, and she's just gotten him back. And so I love the idea that she's like, no, I have you back. Please, I want a sense of normalcy, or whatever we can call normalcy, back in my life again. You know what I mean? I don't want to constantly be questioning if you even will come back to this life that we've created, you know? And it's and then I love that he doesn't respond to her question. He just goes, no, we're going to go home. And it's just the fact that it ends on home. Like, he's just like, we're going home.
Yep.
They're going home. And I love the idea that that's all she needed. Like, that right there was proof enough that, no, you know what? He's here to stay. He's mine.
I love that episode ends on the word home. A very small little thing that I'm going to throw in before I have my last statement about this episode. His comment about his father bringing him here to the lake as a child, and how it was wonderful. I think it's the only time in the entire show where Lucian offers up a very positive memory of his father.
I'm glad you said that, yes.
A really interesting moment, especially with the conversation then becoming very much about parents and their children.
It's a very interesting moment
in that way at that time.
It's a very interesting moment that then has me questioning, because he was so young whenever he was sent away, that I'm like, how old would you? And it was just, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, you couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 then when you came over here with your dad. Like, I feel like the memory of him and his dad at the lake was probably one of the first few memories he has of him with his dad, because he would have been so young at the time. So it's no wonder that those are the moments or the places that he would gravitate towards to reflect and like kind of like have his moments like peace and solidarity, is like, I'm going to go back to the few precious happy moments I had in my horrible childhood. Or rather, like, because again, this is still like
one good memory I have of my childhood.
Exactly. Well, also you also have to realize that like he doesn't even really know this place, because he didn't really grow up there. So it would make sense that like it would be a place like that he would gravitate towards because he has no other real place in the town.
Yeah,
He
that's
hasn't
why
been there long enough.
then, just to jump to a different episode, that the place he reacts most strongly to in terms of this is where I come from is the primary school that they go
Yes.
to. That's the only time you see Lucien feel like he has a connection to anywhere in
Mhm.
town that isn't
Mhm.
somewhere established since coming back. It's that primary school. Yeah.
And I imagine he would have spent like 2 years there or something. Like, you know what I mean?
10 when he leaves, so it would have been it would have been most of his primary schooling
Oh,
years.
so yeah,
but-
like okay, so like 4 years,
Of-
4 years. Now, share with me the pun.
So, Lucien's arc in this episode is returning home to a place that he has only just discovered is his home. But when he comes back, everything starts to fall apart. And he is constantly searching throughout this episode for something to hold on to that will draw him back to that sense of home that he had before he left.
Yes.
Now, one of the first things that Jean says to him in that first scene when she meets him at the bus stop is, "What would you do without me?" And from that moment onwards, that then becomes the theme of the episode. It's that even when everything else is falling apart around Lucien, he has Jean. What would he do without her? Well, who even wants to contemplate that? But it doesn't matter, because he can lose Nell, he can lose the connection to his mother, he can lose Danny, who was symbolic of the family that they'd built in season 1. He can lose Joy, who was a small spark of hope for a future. He can lose his connection to his wife and his child. He can even lose Mattie in some sense because she's moved away from medicine to social work. But he still has Jean. And that, my friend, is the heart of the matter.
I cannot with you right now. But I also want to say I'm so proud of you right now for delivering that pun so beautifully. That was such a beautiful pun. Oh my god.
I've been doing that for 5 hours.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh.
But I stand by it. From that line onwards, what would you do without me? You
Yeah,
would not be Lucien Blake without her.
literally.
And he comes back to that. And that's why the last scene of the show is him saying, "Let's go home."
Oh, see,
Because
now I'm gonna
everything else is falling away, but you and I are going home.
take it even further because that line is literally from the second he says that line to the end of season 3.
Yeah.
What would you do without me? I would fucking fall apart. That's what I would do. Going into season 4, that line is still relevant. What would you do without me? I would literally try to blow myself up with dynamite. That's what I would try to do.
They shut.
That's a beautiful way to end. That's a beautiful way to end the episode. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And as usual, if you want to come find me on the interwebs, you can find me on the Tumblrs. Hold on, Edward Scissorhands has decided to start walking around the room again. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go. Sorry, as I was saying, if you want to find me on Tumblr, I am lemonlemon.tumblr.com. Go forth and find me on there if you would like. It's a free world, kind of. Shannon, where, if any, you do not have to share any social medias that you, or if you do, where can the peoples find you?
The peoples can find me on the Tumblr webs as well. I am Lucien Blakes on the Tumblr. Blakes with an S at the end because I think Melanie still has the other one.
Yeah, she does. She never gave you the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that one who writes really shouty episode reactions to season.
You mean amazing shouty episode ramblings. Everything you write are things that I've already thought, but I'm just like, good, Shannon wrote them. She wrote them better, because if I write them, literally everyone's going to be like, no, stop.
It was terrible though, because I started writing notes for this episode in that same style, and I was like, oh, I can't say that on a podcast. I'll sound like an idiot.
You're like, that looks better if I write it and not if I say it.
I need to write this in some vaguely intelligent way. I don't know.
You should see what my notes end up looking like. So please, that's nothing. Okay. Ugh. Now, that's where. So that's where. Yeah. That's where you can find us on the social medias. You can still follow us on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/theadventuresinballarat. We are in the iTunes podcast store under the same name. We are on Stitcher under the same name, and we are on Castbox. I can never remember the name correctly of whatever other podcast app that is. Melanie uses it. I don't know. But we are in all those places. Also, if anyone does have a comment, question, or concern, the beautiful Melanie has gone and set us up with a Gmail account for this podcast to help make our lives easier. So any comments, questions, concerns, episodes you would like to podcast on, things like that, you can send us an email at the adventuresinballarat@gmail.com. Yeah, also, don't forget to like drop us a like, or what's one of these on SoundCloud, the little heart, yeah, or whatever other form. It makes Melanie feel better. I'm just gonna throw her under the bus.
We're throwing Melanie under the bus because she's fallen asleep.
Yes, she's gonna enjoy this when she hears this back whenever when I post this. So, once again, thank you everyone for listening, and yeah, thank you really for listening because really, I'm just so.
What are you doing with your lives? No.
I'm so baffled. I'm so baffled by people who listen to
There are
this.
many better podcasts you could be listening to. No,
Please.
these guys are amazing, and this is the best podcast, and you should continue to listen to them.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right. Well,
Sure. Because the ABC are a little bit odd at the moment, and we need all the support we can get.
no, yeah, we will stick with this show because we are marketing this show far better than the actual network is. So we will just keep doing what we're doing. All right. So thank you everyone for listening, and join us for the next episode.